Okay, so today we are on lesson number 196 of a workbook of A Course in Miracles. It can be but myself that I can crucify. And of course, this is the central theme of the text talks about quite often. The secret of salvation is I but do this to myself, and there's a couple of really good paragraphs. I mean, a couple of good. It's all these words. It's interesting. There's been a discussion going on, and it was continuing today. Somebody sent me one of the messages, and there's a lot of discussion going on as to the nature of what's been published so far from A Course in Miracles, and which is bona fide and which isn't bona fide, and why one edition is bona fide and why another edition would not be considered bona fide. So it's been funny to watch because until you get unless you're receiving guidance that tells you exactly what's going on, all of these discussions are taking place within the egoic realm, and they sound like they make sense. But the fact of the matter is, to me, none of them really get to the heart of the matter, and that always has been for me that there are no words that Jesus would speak to anyone, would give to anyone, that he would deny anyone's ability to hear and listen to, because all of his communication to us is quite helpful in us learning and taking these central lessons to heart. It can be but myself that can crucify. It can be but myself that I crucify. It is my attack thoughts that are attacking my invulnerability. Much of the Course is based and centered around the idea that we are doing this to ourselves, and to get back to what I was saying about the editions of the Course, and it's been interesting to watch because people have a lot of different opinions as to why this is going on, and who's right and who's wrong, and who gets it right and who gets it wrong. And all I could say myself is the thing that I know for sure is that when Jesus addressed me and told me that all the material would be made available to me, it was because there is nothing to hide and nothing that is inconsistent. In a sense, there is no inconsistency in the words of Jesus from sentence to sentence, and he would deny no one anything, as the Father denies no one anything, and that's the nature of the reason why these words have been made available to us the way they have been. Bill was given an assignment by Jesus as to generalizing the notes so that they would be suitable for anyone that picked it up. Like a workbook, for like a college course manual. People would be able to pick it up and utilize, learn the course and learn to teach the course. So in that regard, Bill was given an assignment, and we've come to understand, based on the nature of the text of A Course in Miracles, that Jesus is the head of the atonement, and he's been put in charge. And one of the reasons why I know for a fact he wanted the Sparkle edition out was not, in a sense, for there to be controversy or questioning the legitimacy of the words in other editions, but in order to demonstrate and to allow people to come to an understanding that when you say yes to Jesus and you fulfill your function, you do get the results of the fulfillment of your function and the labors that you put into it, because it is the Christ in all of us that does these works. It is the Christ, as Jesus says, is only the Father, and our Father in heaven is good, and He is the one, by the grace of God, it was all these things happen. So, and I don't really know how I got into that from today's lesson, but it seems to me that a lot of the discussions that are being had about the nature of the books and the editions that are out on the market miss the essential point that our Father in heaven would deny us nothing, and Jesus, who came to the recognition through his own awakening and fulfillment of his function that he is created exactly as God created him, as God himself is, would deny a brother nothing as well. And I think the reason I got into this because much of this lesson talks about the idea of attacking others in an attempt to escape attacking yourself. And when I read some of the things that have been put out there about the court case, the publishing of the material by organizations and people other than the Foundation for Inner Peace, all of them somewhere, and this is part of what this lesson is about, the conversations are all attempting to make someone wrong in order to prove that their theory is right. And the last 2 days, yesterday's lesson and today's lesson, it's become obvious that it's not possible to do that, and yet that is the ego's plan for salvation. There's an interesting line in here in this lesson today, and you will that talks about saving the lies of the ego, and that's what the ego asks us to do: is to attack others in order to preserve the rightness of the lies that it tells us in our mind. Because when we attack, we are making these judgments real, the need to defend ourselves real, and ultimately what we're saying is because we need to defend ourselves against everything, we actually wind up defending ourselves against God. And that's the madness that this lesson is confronting in all of us. Today's idea is one step we take in leading us from bondage to the state of perfect freedom. Let us take this step today that we may go quickly. We quickly go on the way salvation showed us, taking every step in its appointed sequence as the mind relinquishes its burdens one by one. It is not time we need for this, it's willingness. So what it's saying is, although it seems to occur in time, what we really need to do is be willing to allow this to be done unto us. For what would seem to need 1,000 years can be easily done in just one instant by the grace of God. The dreary, hopeless thought that you can make attack on others and escape yourself has nailed you to the cross. Perhaps it seems to be salvation, and that's what I was getting at with all these different opinions about what's going on and the nature of what's been published from A Course in Miracles, thinking that if we can attack another's reason for what they did in order to make the reason that, say, I did something, I know it seemed as though there was attack and defense going on in the court cases, but to me it was always the working out of salvation. And it was like a dance where both partners were involved and allowed for the purpose of having the right thing occur. And as far as I'm concerned, the right thing did occur. As Jesus told me, all the words, all the material was made available to me. And one of the things that he wants us to remember in all of these lessons is that his words are true. And if we do what is asked of us, we will get the result that he is indicating we will get. And in this lesson, he's mentioning that if we go about this lesson the way it's designed, has been designed for us to go about, and we begin, he says, such is the form of madness you believe, if you accept the fearful thought that you can attack another and be free yourself. Now, this is until this form is changed, there's no hope. Until this form is changed, there's no hope. Until you start to get a glimpse of the fact that no matter how much you attack others, and even if you win, you are not free, and because we go on to continue to defend ourselves over and over again, there is no hope. How simple is salvation? We but do this to ourselves. The minute we take back responsibility and see that it's our responses, the way we're thinking, that causes us the experiences that we have, then this begins to make sense, because you'd never be able to wake up from a dream that someone, if you're being dreamed by someone else. However, if you're the dreamer of the dream and you follow instructions of awakening given by one who has awoken from the dream, then certainly you are going to begin to have experiences of awakening, because our minds are all created the same, in the sense of being equal. We're all created equally. We're all created the same. We're all created equal in that sense. Our minds have all created the same way, and they all work the same way for the purpose of this, the generalization of the lessons of the workbook of the Course in Miracles. One mind is all mind, because we all share one mind. And when any one mind was capable of learning how to free himself, all minds in that instant were actually free, because all minds will follow suit in freeing themselves, because that is what God's grace is offering to us. But until this form is changed, there is no hope. Until you see that this, at least, must be entirely impossible. How could there be escape? What would you be escaping from? Because you'd be in the constant position of having to continue to attack in order to be free. But that's not free at all. The fear of God is real to anyone who thinks this thought is true, and he will not perceive its foolishness or even see that it is there, so that it would be possible to question it. To question it all, its form first must be changed at least as much as will permit fear of retaliation to abate. Okay, we need to give ourselves that space. Even the idea of possibility, okay, wait a second, maybe this isn't true. We must begin to question our own thinking in order to free ourselves from the prison that our thinking has made us and put us in. And we don't do that by attacking someone else's thinking. We do that by questioning our thinking in the light of the reasonability that's being offered to us through the mind of Jesus. It is recognition that God is but love, and therefore so am I. So it's impossible for God to attack. Because why would he attack himself? What would there be to gain by attacking himself? And it would be the same for us. What would be gained by attacking another? Except proof that we are weak and need to be defended, and that is not how God created us, and that is what this lesson is getting to. When we attack, we prove that our fears are real, rather than free us from the need to experience the fear at all in relationship to attack and defense. When we finally free ourselves from the idea that attack in any form would be helpful for our defense and protection and freedom, then what begins to occur is the experience of that freedom. That's what this is saying. To question it at all, its form must first be changed at least as much as will permit fear of retaliation to abate, and the responsibility returned to some extent to you. From there, you can at least consider if you want to go along this painful path. Until this shift has been accomplished, you cannot perceive that it is but your thoughts that bring you fear, and your deliverance depends on you. Yes, we're being restored to the recognition that the power of mind is ours. We're dreaming a dream by our own volition, and because it is by our own volition, we can change our mind and use our will in alignment with the Father's will to escape the dream that in reality does not exist, but has preoccupied our mind with death as a way out, when in fact death does not solve the problem. So today's lesson, it can be but myself I crucify. And you know, we all have a problem at first with the lesson of taking full responsibility, because we think it would be easier if we could find the son of a bitch who's responsible and eliminate him, because it doesn't make sense that we would imprison ourselves, quite frankly. In your right mind, there's no way you would do these things, but the effects that we're getting in the dream of separation did not come from our right mind, but we are being restored to our ability to utilize right-minded thinking as a way to free us from the wrong-minded perspective, in which we remembered not to laugh at a tiny mad idea and allowed the tiny mad idea to become how we define ourselves, rather than freeing ourselves from the need for definition at all by remembering we've always been whole and perfect as God created us, and there's never been a need to defend ourselves against anything. We could have laughed at the tiny mad idea and eliminated all the defense that we've needed, and the attacks that we've made in order to prove that we need to be we need to defend ourselves, because victimization is possible. Our next step will be easy if you take this one today. From there, we go ahead quite rapidly. For once you understand it is impossible that you be hurt except by your own thoughts, the fear of God must disappear. You cannot then believe that fear is caused without, and God, whom you had thought to banish, can be welcomed back within the holy mind. He never left, and that holy mind is your mind, is my mind. It is the mind that we share with God and with all creation. And that's what we're attempting to restore to our present memory, so as to no longer need space and time as a classroom in which to learn of the fact that we are God's presence is within us, as our presence is within Him. And in that the kingdom is reestablished and creation is assured to be eternal and infinite.